So this is a little bit of an unusual setup put together at the last minute. We are live, although I'm gonna give a little bit of time for people to come in. So in the meantime, I'm just filling a little time. So this is the Gamble Quilting Business Success podcast and webinar. And we have a very special location and a very special guest tonight. This is, I believe, episode number 33, but don't crucify me if I'm wrong. But I was just listening to episode 22 earlier today, or 32 earlier today. And this year, Gamble has, again, we're continually pursuing ways to get more close, more into well, closer is a good word. So like, for example, we don't just ship somebody a long arm quilting machine. We come to your house in a Gamble truck, and we're there at your studio to put it together and show you how to use it. And for our classes, we've got pre-recorded classes, of course, that you can watch in your video or in your studio. And then we have, the Zoom sessions with the teacher right there, inches from your face. She's right there in your house. And we do cruises and retreats and different kinds of events. And there's a lot of resources that was going to displaying, putting booths at quilt shows. And we were like, well, this is kind of not our focus. Like, we try to get closer to people and spend more time with them, and not just have people walk by and spend 5 minutes. That's not a very good relationship. We would rather spend days with people. And so today we're at one of just 2 shows that we are going to this year. And the reason we're at so few shows, we're at Paducah, Kentucky, but we're at so few shows so that all those resources, manpower, diesel, machines, all that stuff, where we're doing nearly 50 one-day free events all around the country, and 50 additional 2-day events that are paid. They're a training event. And you can learn a lot if you do all 3 days, or even just 1 day or 2 days. And so that's a lot better than just spending 15 minutes with somebody who just walks by. So anyway, that's a long-winded introduction to where we are. We're at Paducah, Kentucky today, recording live. And if I was to pan the screen, you would see, the aisles and all that stuff. So pretty rustic setup here with a laptop and a couple of microphones. But my special guest today is Cathy Kleinschmidt. I've known Cathy for quite a long time. Some of these questions that we ask are going to be a little bit different. Her story is not quite like anybody else's, but she has a lot of experience, and I think everybody's going to enjoy this interview. So, Cathy, let's just get right into it. Where's home for you? What part of the country do you live in?
Home for me is the Midwest. I am from Orfordville, Wisconsin, which is just north of the Illinois-Wisconsin border.
Okay. And how long have you been long arm quilting?
I started long arm quilting back in 1998. I had used a short arm in 95 and 96, but a long arm in 98.
Had you been a quilt top maker for longer than that?
Yes, I had started quilting more, making tops, probably about 1990.
Okay. 1990. All right. How old would you have been at that time? I'm just trying to make a pick. A lot of people don't start piecing tops until they're in their 40s.
I was probably 42 in 1990.
Okay. All right.
I had never quilted. My neighbor she wanted to take a class, and I said, I don't quilt. And she said, well, but you're my friend. And I said, yes, but I don't quilt. And she said, well, then just be my friend so I don't have to walk in alone. Go walk with me. So I did. It was a 1-day class. By the time I went home, I was hooked.
You were there to give her courage.
Yes.
Well, you've encouraged a lot of people over the years, as we'll find when we get into your story. So, what made you decide to long arm? Because you had been, you'd gone to a quilting class with your friend. You
Mhm.
discovered how fun it was to cut fabric apart and put it back together.
Yep.
How did you get into long arm quilting?
I had to live in Mexico for a couple of years with my husband's job, and I knew no one, didn't know the language. So I took along $600 of fabric and a sewing machine, and I started piecing. And when I came home, I had all these tops, and I took them to a lady who had a long arm. And she, after doing a few of them, said to me, "Good Lord, you need to learn to long arm because you've got so many tops." And so I started drawing designs with stencils on quilts for her and trading her time. And then she'd let me come and use the machine. And from that point on, in 1996, I started long arming and have never quit.
Ah, okay. So I'm going to adjust the camera because I just realized that you talk with your hands a lot and nobody can see half of what you're saying. Okay. So, um, hey, this is we're a lot more professional with our long arm machines than we are with our video and audio. I'll tell you that. You know what? It's the result that counts. All right. So when you got your machine, the
Mhm.
question that comes up next is, did you intend to start a business with it, or did that happen accidentally? It sounds like, with your friend, the lady who was doing the quilts for you, it just kind of made dollars and cents
Mhm.
for you to do that.
She took her machine and moved away. And there were all these people who needed to have a quilter. And I thought, I know how to quilt. I could do this. And so I talked my husband into letting me get the machine. That took me a while, but he finally did. And I started it as a business, not so much that I wanted to make a living off of it, but I wanted to make enough money for pay for my machine. And I've done that a few times.
Yeah, a few times over. So tell me a little bit about the resistance that your husband put up. What were his concerns?
Um, his basic comment was, "We got to cut back. We got to cut back. You don't know about the economy. You know, the economy's going down. You got to cut back." And I made the comment that, how come every time you wanted to buy a boat or a saw or another boat or canoe or kayak, there was always money to do it. But when I wanted a gamma machine, I had to cut back. And so I got a little testy and I walked out the door and went to the library and stayed there all day and read a book. And when I came back, he sat down and he said, "Okay, while you were gone, before you jump up and go in the other room, while you were gone, I checked out some investments and there's one that's not doing so well. So if you want to get a machine, here, take this and figure out how to cash it in." And I didn't wait for a second offer. I just said, "Oh, thank you very much." And I took it. And the next day I called and said, "How do I get this money?" And then I called and got my machine. And I've had a Gamble since 2001.
Nice.
Yes.
So at that time in 2000, 2001, um, Gamma wasn't the only choice. Like there were other brands of machine that you could have bought.
Yeah.
How did that decision land on a Gamma as opposed to something different?
Okay. Back at that point in time, they had what was called Machine Quilter Showcase, and they were in Springfield, Illinois. And I had gone down there a couple of years in a row, and I had tried all the other machines. None of them compared to the quality of the Gamma. And if you're going to buy a machine and you only want to buy it once, then you buy a Gamma. So I had my husband come down with me the second year, and I said, "Okay, look at him." And he went through and he said, "If you're going to buy one, buy the Gamma. It's the only one that's of the quality that's going to last." And so I did. And I've had it ever since.
Your husband, I've spent a little bit of time with him. He is um I believe that in the dictionary, if they have an entry for frugal, they probably have his picture there.
Mhm.
He's
I'm
very
sure.
frugal.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, so how is it that, because he basically just said it's okay for you to buy the most expensive one at the show.
No, he said, "You go check them out. You find the best quality one." And
Ah,
I went to the show that year and I looked at all of them. I tried all of them and I went home and I said, "Okay, this is the one that I think is the best, but I want you to come and look at it too." And he said, "If you think it's the best and it's the one you want, then get it."
mhm.
And so I did.
Husbands do their research on the internet now.
Yeah.
They look at the Google reviews. They still do that today. I mean, you don't doesn't matter if you're a husband or a wife or, what your situation is. That's a big investment.
Yes,
So,
yes, it is.
yep.
And you're still gonna find the Gamel's the best quality.
Yeah. Uh, I don't, I don't think anyone seriously debates that, but it's funny. People do try to say that you don't need a machine as good as a Gamel. But when does it ever hurt you to buy the best?
It doesn't. If you want it to last, if mine will be inherited by my granddaughter, it'll be inherited by her child. Anybody who loves quilting in the family will keep getting this machine. It's always upgradable. It's wonderful.
So when you got that machine, was it a hand-guided machine or computerized?
Nope, it was hand guided. It was constant speed, no regulator or anything. The stitch regulator came out 4 years late. Well, it came out 2 years later, but I didn't get it until 4 years later. I added a stitch regulator to it in 2005.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then I upgraded later and put the Statler stitcher on in about 2011, 2012.
So is that the same machine that you have today?
Yes,
Okay. So it's gone through its original life, and then you upgraded it to a plus machine,
yes,
and then retrofitted it to a Statler. Okay.
yes. It's a 26-inch classic.
Okay. From 2003.
It was my serial number said the casting was poured in 2000. I bought in 2001.
Okay.
It was delivered in May of 2001.
Okay. Boy, that feels like a long
23
time
years old.
ago.
It is a long time ago, and it's still running.
Yep.
It just, they're workhorses.
Yep. So how did you know that there would be enough long arm quilting business in your town to support the machine, or were you making enough quilts to make it worth it?
Well, at that point, I had some of my own to do, but I also knew a lot of people who were getting into quilting, and I was teaching some friends how to quilt, and they all needed quilts done. And so there was your business. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to start a business.
Sure. So that also answers my other question about how you found customers. There was your friends that you had taught how to quilt. What
Yep.
about, were there other areas that you found customers, just
Yes.
word of mouth or
Word of mouth is
Quilt
one.
Guild?
Quilt guild. Well, no, I didn't go guild. Everybody goes quilts, so I didn't. A little different here. Through church, you get a couple of them through church. Then I donated a couple of them at school, t-shirt quilts that I'd made as, things for raffles and organizations, the sports clubs and stuff at school. And then people would give them to you, and people from church started. And then an excellent way to do it, and I know it might sound a little morbid. However, if you watch the paper and someone passes away, you send a sympathy card, and you can have these cards made for imprints. They'll make them for you, and your business card. And you put a business card in there and put with my deepest sympathy. If you would want a memory quilt made of your loved one's clothing, let me know when you're ready. And just have your business card in there. And it's a booming business. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to learn to
If you
say
stop
no.
and think about all the different people that that
Yes.
after they pass on, that somebody wants to get a memory
Yes.
quilt. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So you found a lot of customers that
A
way.
lot of customers.
Uh-huh. Okay, you already covered this question. How did you come up with the funds to purchase your machine? Did you ever keep track of, if you didn't, I know your husband did, but did you ever keep track of how long it took for you to earn or pay back the cost of your machine?
Yes, that machine was paid back within 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that was the agreement I made with him, that I would take all of the money I made and I would pay that money back, and I would pay for the 2 boys' college tuition money. If he would let me get the machine, I knew I could make enough money so that we wouldn't have to take any money out of investments to put those boys through college. And when those boys got through college, then I bought myself a boat. And he couldn't believe I could make enough money to pay for a boat, but I did.
Interesting. So when you were doing your quilting for customers, did you also have another job at the same time?
When I first got my machine, I did. I worked at Blackhawk Technical College in the tech prep area. But after a while, I couldn't work there full time and then quilt until midnight to get everybody's quilts done. And so finally, I just told my boss I had to, when May got there, I would always have the summer off. I said, I'm done. She said, I'll see you in September. I said, no, I'm done. And she said, no, this is working really well. And I said, no, I'm done. And I did quit and go full time.
Uh-huh. Okay. And so you quit and went full time after how many years of doing both?
Just a year.
A year of doing both?
Yeah,
Okay.
just, no,
Well, you have to follow your heart, you know, if you're if you,
it's fun.
if all day long you're at work and you're thinking about the quilts you get to
Yeah.
do when you go home.
And then you quilt up until 12, 1, 2 o'clock, and you got to get some sleep to go back to work the next day to function. And pretty soon it just got to the point where, what do you want to do? Well, I want to stay home and quilt. Well, then quit your job and stay home and quilt.
Yeah.
So I did. And it's
Yeah.
been wonderful ever since.
All right. I know that everybody who's watching this live right now is pretty dialed into your story, but I want to take a little intermission to point out that at the bottom of your screen, there's a little thing, I believe it's called Q&A on your side. And so as we are going, you can type a question in there at any time. And when I see it pop up, whenever I get a break, I'll go ahead and read that question and we'll ask Cathy this for you. So Cathy, this is 23 years ago that you started, but at this point, are you still long arm quilting? And if so, how many hours per week would you say you quilt?
Yes, I'm still long arm quilting because I'm 76 years old now. So I've cut back a lot, but there have been new people getting machines. And so I can refer my customers to them so I don't feel so guilty. I probably am still quilting 20 to 30, 35 hours a week.
Okay. Half time,
Half time,
3/4 time.
about
Yeah.
half time.
Do you strictly stay mostly to the edge to edge? Do you do some custom? You had mentioned the t-shirt quilts. What's your kind of working blend?
Majority of my customers are edge to edge because price, that's what they want. If it's for them, normally that's a custom quilt. I'm doing a king size custom right now. I also do a blend where part of it is Statler, part of it is freehand. It kind of depends on what they want. So I can do either.
And mostly you're dealing with long-term customers now, people that you've had for a long time.
Yes. The group of ladies that I taught, those 7 ladies, I will quote for them. I don't, right now, I'm not taking many new customers at all. It has to be somebody who can't find anybody.
So, you had told me before, Cathy, that you were probably not going to be able to answer the question of how much you think you earned in your best year or in your worst year. But take a stab, at least what you can tell people. You mentioned that you put your boys through college without loans.
Right. We paid their, I told Bill, if I could get that machine, it could make enough money to pay for their books, their tuition, and room and board. As long as they stayed on campus, I'd pay room and board. If they moved off, then they had to get a job and pay their own room and board. I would continue to pay tuition and books. And we put both of those boys through college. They came out debt free. And that machine paid for it.
So are they gainfully employed?
They are one is yes, they're gainfully employed. One is a doctor's assistant, and the other one is a high school assistant principal. So they're very gainfully employed. They take good care of me.
Good job, Mom.
Yeah. Okay. Good job, boys.
That's very important. That's very important.
And then when I got them through college, I bought my own boat because I liked it, an inboard. So I bought one because Bill's was outboard.
Inboards are better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you good money.
So, what was the hardest part of growing your business? If you think back to those really early years before it really took off, what was the obstacle that you had to get over?
Time, having the time to be able to dedicate to it, which is, you know, if
how old were your boys at that time?
One was 14 in high school. The other, or let's see, I'm sorry, 16. 15 and 17 at that point in time. The 2 youngest were 15 and 17. So you're trying to go to school events. You're trying to work and help outside, and you're trying to get your quilting done. And it's time, dedicated time to be able to quilt. And when you look at a quilt, it's a piece of art. And so you're trying to say, okay, what's going to make it look the best? What can I do to make it a masterpiece? And so it's uh, figuring out the ideas of what to do.
Mhm.
Sometimes it would take me a while. Figure those out.
Yeah, I can see that. I have a lot of coworkers right now whose kids are in that age range, and I know it's a very busy time.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Um, can you think of any change in technology from when you first started up until this day that has really made a difference for you, that made it much easier for you to do your business, or really changed
Absolutely.
everything?
Absolutely. Technology is awesome. I'm 76, so I struggle with technology a little. But the videos that Gamma puts out there, and adding the Statler to it made the world of difference, because I can run an edge to edge so much quicker. I can do the custom work and just drop in patterns and triangles, and it allowed you the creativity to make it look like an awesome quilt. And I didn't have to think up all the ideas. People had them out there. You can go watch videos, and if you had issues, you could call somebody, whereas before you were always on your own.
Yeah, yeah.
Technology is wonderful.
I see a question here, so let me take a look and see what we have. One comment from Pam is just that quilters don't do math. I can see that.
Well,
And
to some
then
extent.
Cadence, she was asking about the $50 flat rate again.
Okay,
We cut it out at that point.
okay.
Okay. I think that's where you're talking about. Is that, go ahead.
I was talking about a baby quilt. Normally baby quilts are 45 by 45 or 45 by 50. And so if I'm just running an edge to edge on a baby quilt, I tell the people it's a flat $50 rate. Takes me about an hour and a half to load it, run it, and take it off. I include the batting and the thread. It's a fair price for me. It's a fair price for them.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to put a quilt on the frame for less than
No.
$50.
No.
Yeah. Okay, great. Any other questions, feel free to shoot them out there to us. So, so Kathy, I love this question because who, who was your biggest cheerleader through this?
Well, now, once I got the machine and it started making money, my husband is. He tells people that's the best thing I ever bought, and which I always question, who bought it? But he tells people it's the best thing I ever bought. She gets grouchy. I say, honey, just go to the basement and quilt. She comes up in such a good mood afterwards. And that's true. Quilting is therapy. I love it. I'm not necessarily in it to make a bunch of money now. It's my therapy. I love doing it. And it's fun. And you get to get up in the morning and go do something you love to do, and somebody's going to pay you to do it. It's great.
Fantastic. So he's your biggest supporter, huh?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. What kind of impact has the quilting money and the control over your personal schedule made in your life?
Oh, it's much more relaxing now. I can choose to when I want to quilt. Again, I retired, and so I kind of like to go do my own thing when I want to. It has allowed me to have money when I have four sons, and if the boys needed anything, it's like, well, go ask mom, because mom's always got money. And so it allowed me to give them money, help out, do this, do that, take a vacation to Florida in January, and then go back to work in February. It gives you a lot of freedom. It has given me a lot of freedom. And when I come home from my sabbatical that month in January in Florida, where it's warm, to Wisconsin, where it's cold, I'm thrilled to go back out and quilt again. It's fun. You miss it after you've been away a little while. You miss it.
Mhm.
So
A lot of people point out to us when we're doing these interviews how much the flexibility and the freedom, because I mean, not to pick on any other type of a job, but normally you don't have a lot of control over your schedule.
No.
Somebody else is telling you when you're going to work.
Yep.
So this is something people really do like. So, what's something that you wish someone would have told you when you first started?
that I should have done it sooner. I should have just done it sooner.
Should have done it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Were you afraid? Like you were, well, you seem like the kind of person who's afraid of nothing, but
No.
you were making some kind of old promises to your husband. Hey, I need to buy this machine. I can pay it back. Blah blah blah.
Mhm.
What what were you secretly kind of questioning a little bit whether you really could?
No, no, I knew I could make enough money quilting. There's enough business out there for everybody. People would say to me, aren't you afraid that there'll be too many? It'll be saturated, market will be saturated. And I always say, no, because again, when you get to be my age, it's like, I don't necessarily have to work that hard anymore. I don't have to earn that much money. I don't have to do this anymore. So you kind of back away. But yet there's all kinds of people out there quilting. They need quilters. So no, I've never worried about it getting saturated. I have 5 different people within maybe 7 miles of me who all have Statler stitchers. All of us are busy. Everybody is busy.
As busy as you want to be.
Oh, as busy as you want to be or work. I have a quilt shop that's got a Statler in it. There's 70 quilts behind. I went there at Christmas and they're like, oh my Lord, if they had room, they'd have another machine because they're that busy. And my neighbor, I look out my kitchen window, there she is. She's busy. One out my living room window, she's busy. There's enough business out there for everybody. And the older you get, you kind of drop off and you need people coming to pick up the slack because the amount of interest in the classes that they're teaching. I have people asking me to teach more classes, teach more piecing classes. And it just keeps growing.
Okay. Well, we're getting down to the last couple questions. So, if you got a question you want to write in, this would be your opportunity to do it. So, what advice would you give to someone who wants to do what you've done? What does she need to hear to
Don't be afraid because of the dollar cost. Get your machine, get a good quality machine. If you don't get a good quality one, you get one that you're going to struggle with, then it's going to ruin your love for quilting. Because now you're not going to like it anymore. It doesn't work. And now you're frustrated. Get a good quality machine to start with. And then just start out. The business will come. Word of mouth. Do a sample. Go to a quilt shop. Offer to do a sample for them. A class that they're going to teach. Quilt it free. I'll quilt it free for you if you'll carry my business cards and give me the reference. You'll get business.
So this is
Don't be
20 some years later. Don't be afraid. This is 20 some years later. And obviously tons of things have changed. Why hasn't the quilting changed? Because like I've heard a lot of people say, well, there's so many machines out there. There's a machine on every corner. But I think one thing people don't realize is there's a lot of cheaper machines that don't actually get used. They get used just as much as a rowing machine or a stair stepper or something else that you used it for a week or two and now it gathers dust. So there's a whole ton of those. And then there's machines like yours that's capable of putting out several hundred quilts a year, but you don't use it that much anymore because you're busy doing things with your grandkids.
That's true. I have grandkids that live a distance away. And like I said, I'm 76, I'm retired. I'm going to go enjoy life with them too. So that's why I cut back on my quilting. And I tell new people, okay, here's where customers are. And I refer my customers that I'm cutting back. Here's somebody who will give you quality work. They've got a Statler also. They're good at hand guiding, whatever.
Thank you. Yeah, so we got a question from Grace, and her question is, when you were promoting yourself and sending a sympathy card offering to make a quilt from the clothing, did you offer a specific design or two?
No, basically when you get the clothing, they don't really care. They want something out of their loved one's clothing. And normally I will do what I call the back porch quilt, squares, 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, whatever. And then I'll sash it, and then I run an overall on it. And those quilts, depending on the size, if it's a couch quilt, usually it costs them $120 to do a couch quilt. If I am making it and quilting it, doing both, because I have a gal who does a lot of my piecing for me now, because it just got to be too much to do it alone. And she will piece it, a couch she'll piece for $75, a queen size she'll piece for 150. And so if she's pieced it for 150 and I run an edge to edge on it, if it's queen size, it runs about 150, 130, 150, depending on the size, 100, 110.
We should have a conversation about inflation. I'm afraid that your prices have not kept pace with inflation, but
Not.
I guess you don't really need the money.
No, I do it for the love of it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I see another question. People are getting them in under the wire because they know we're at the end. So Sandy, oh, hi, Sandy. I know her. She says, as a new quilter doing edge to edge, can you explain where the line is that defines a project as custom? I hear terms of semi-custom and custom.
Okay, an edge to edge is over the whole quilt, same pattern over the whole quilt. That's edge to edge. Semi is a quilt that I've got a border on it, and maybe there's triangles on the border. So I'm going to drop a pattern, a Statler pattern into my triangles, flipping it back and forth all the way around. And I'll just click, 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 drop it in, let it stitch, click, 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 drop it in, let it stitch. In the middle, I will start the edge to edge and just run that in the middle panel, what I call the middle section, and just run an edge to edge on that, but I'll drop something else out here. Or maybe I'll freehand it and I'll run bars. I'll do that 2-inch piano key channel lock it every 2 inches across and down the sides and bar their borders. Custom, total custom is no edge.
Quick question. So when you're talking semi-custom like that, where the middle of it is an edge to edge, are we talking about maybe twice as much time overall?
No.
No?
No, no, it doesn't take twice as much time. No,
Well, if
not
you
with
were
the
hand
Statler.
guided, it would, but with the Statler.
If you're hand guiding, okay, if I'm gonna hand guide, and that's where I'm gonna do the barred borders. I'm just gonna use channel locks and bar those borders out separately, run an edge to edge on the inside. Or maybe I'm gonna bar the borders, maybe there's a second border that I'm gonna put patterns in the triangles and run an edge to edge in the middle, or just run an overall meander in the middle. Maybe I'll freehand that. Sometimes it's faster just to freehand it. So it really depends. And when I do that, then I kind of keep track of my time, because I'm gonna quilt, and it's gonna be a minimum is gonna be $15 an hour. Usually your edge to edge makes more than that, but
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. We got another one from iPhone. Do you trim your quilts before returning them to the customer?
yes, I do. A lot of my customers will bring me a binding fabric, and they want me to make the binding and apply it. All right, so now that's another separate charge. If I'm going to make it, it's an apply, just sew it with a sewing machine on the top. I charge $25 because that's going to take me an hour to make it and sew it on when I get done. And I quilt them. Even if I'm not putting a binding on, I trim all my quilts to a 1/2 inch away so that the customer, unless a customer tells me not to trim it, I trim them. They look neater. They look more finished.
Now, is it fair to say that you haven't changed your prices in the last 5 years?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what I'm thinking when I'm hearing your prices, because these are the things that people were telling me 5 years ago.
That's
Okay,
probably true. Yeah, I
okay,
haven't.
all right. I just want to make sure that anybody listening to
You don't want to charge more, guys.
right. Well,
It's
she's
okay.
got a selective group of customers,
Yeah.
that they probably piece really nicely and they're easy to work with.
Don't I wish?
Oh, come on. Some of
Don't
them
I
might
wish?
listen to this. No,
Yeah, well,
probably
they
not.
need to hear it anyway. I teach a class. I teach them how to do it right. They still don't do it right, some of them. So, it's okay.
Yeah.
You'll work with it. It's okay.
You know what? Sometimes it's hard to get your glasses situated quite
Uh-huh.
right to be able to
Mhm.
make out that 1/4 inch.
Mhm.
It can be really tricky.
It can be. Thank God
Yeah.
for channel locks. Helps you keep them square.
Yeah, well, that helps you, but that doesn't help her to get her piecing right.
I know. You just have to keep telling him, measure, measure, measure.
Okay, we got another question from iPhone. Oh, it's Amy. I know who she is. Okay. I don't usually put last names, but Amy has actually been a guest on the podcast. She is a very successful business owner herself. So, okay. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun, actually. I knew a lot. Cathy and I have worked together for a long time. She has, I guess you basically kind of came out of retirement for a few days to come to the show with us.
2 days. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But
enjoy working with you guys. It's fun.
over the years, she has helped literally thousands of people overcome their whatever had them stuck on achieving their dream. Because you quilters, every one of you has a dream. Some of you, it's to run a quilting business. Some of it, there's a favorite charity doing quilts for people with cancer, people that are veterans, people that are maybe children that have just been taken into out of one rough situation and into a different kind of rough situation. And each one of you has a stamp that you want to put on the world, and it's something that's in you that needs to come out. And yet there's fears. There's, and each of you, there are different fears, but there's the unknown. And to go into that unknown is very scary. And I feel blessed to know Cathy, because in the years that she's been helping people get over their fears, I don't know anybody more encouraging than Cathy. And if you have an excuse for why it won't work for you, or for why you can't do what you want to do, don't be talking to Cathy, because she's going to blow your excuses right out of the water.
No, I hope you'll figure it out. You can do it.
Well, if you listen to the beginning and the end of the podcast, the in and the out that's pre-recorded, I forget exactly what it is that I say there, but I think that it's too easy for us to go through life and look back and wonder what happened to the last 5 years, what happened to the last 10 years, and why didn't I make any of the things that I wanted to see happen. Everything that my husband wanted happened. Everything that my kids wanted happened. And how come none of the things that I wanted to do happened? And I don't have a husband, just in case anybody was wondering. But I just would encourage you to, it's not selfish to take care of yourself.
You're important too.
Yes. And it is really, really, if you have a spouse who's not quite sure, or you're not quite sure about making the leap, I want you to just remember that when you live in a house with somebody who is happy because they're fulfilling their whatever they were made to do, they're doing work that they care about.
It's a passion.
When you live with somebody who is happy in their life because they're doing the things that are important to them, they are a much nicer person to live with. So so if your husband needs that boat, help him get that boat.
Get the boat.
And if you need a Statler, then you need a Statler. Yes, because happy spouse means a happy house.
That's right.
Yes.
You support each other.
Yeah.
It's important. It's good for your mental health. It's good for his mental health.
Yeah.
It is really.
Yeah. It's so we're gonna wrap it up. I apologize for I feel sometimes like I stumble over my words to try to get my idea out, but I just want anybody who's worried or afraid of what they think they can't do. You can do this.
You can do this.
And if you happen to be like a handful of people that I've met over the years, and for whatever reason your life changes, you are suddenly blind, you can't quilt anymore because you can't see the fabric or whatever, give us a call. We'll buy your machine back. This is not like something that has to be a big problem. No. So it's not like you've bought a 2-week vacation around the world, and once you get home, all you have left is the memories. And I mean, it's a tangible piece of equipment.
It is. And you shouldn't look at the price. If you look at that dollar price and you think, oh my God, I can't buy this, it's too much. No, look at how can I buy it? How can I do that? How much actually will it cost me per month to make a payment? If my payment is $900 a month. And if I can make $150 on a quilt, per quilt, then I have to do 4 quilts. 4 quilts for somebody else a month. That's 1 a week.
Yeah. We
That's a piece of cake.
we talk to people all the time who do have obstacles in the way for
Break it
for
down.
getting a machine, but it is almost never, it's really never about the money.
No.
Whenever we are having conversations with people, if you have, if you're a homeowner and you have space in your home where you can put the machine, everything else is just details that
And
we
if
can
you
work
don't,
out.
get rid of the couch. You don't need it anyway. You don't want to sit down
Yeah.
anymore. You just want to quilt.
All right. Well, Cathy, thank you so much for joining
Thank you
me
for having
today.
me, inviting me.
If people have the desire to reach out to you after we wrap up this podcast, do you have, I don't believe you have a quilting website because you started
No.
too soon.
Yep.
Is there a way that people can find you on Facebook or Instagram or,
Remember now? I'm 76.
I
don't-
know you have a
I got
phone
an
number,
email.
but we don't want to put that out.
I got
Okay,
an
what's
email.
your email?
FTRAV, the number 6 at gmail.com. ftrav6 @gmail.com.
All right, cool. Well, it may be that people hear this interview and they have a question for you. Thank you for
That's
sharing your email address. So awesome. All right. Well, we will go ahead and wrap it up and then we will see you all back here next week for another episode. We've got the next several weeks. I know who the interviewees are, and they're looking to be an excellent set of interviews. So thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.